Have you ever felt like you're walking through life with an invisible anchor? Something or someone constantly pulling you down, draining your energy, clouding your judgment? We've all encountered them. The critics, the manipulators, the perpetual victims, the drama magnets. These are the toxic individuals who, intentionally or not, can poison our peace and derail our progress. The good news? You don't have to be a passive recipient of their negativity. The Stoics, masters of mental fortitude, taught that while we cannot always control what happens to us, we have absolute dominion over how we respond. And in that response lies the power to make toxic people and their influence effectively disappear from your life. Today, we're not just talking about avoiding difficult people. We're diving deep into 7 powerful, Stoic-inspired strategies that will equip you to reclaim your emotional space, protect your energy, and cultivate a life of tranquility, even amidst the chaos others might try to create. These aren't quick fixes, they are profound shifts in perspective and action. By the end of this video, you'll have a practical toolkit to neutralize negativity and foster genuine well-being. And if you stay until the end, I will share a powerful ancient parable that perfectly illustrates this episode. So if you're ready to fortify your inner citadel and learn how to make toxic influences fade into the background, let's begin. Strategy number 1, the Stoic Shield. Our first strategy is foundational. The Stoics viewed the mind as a fortress, an inner citadel. Protecting the citadel is your primary duty. Toxic people often breach our defenses because we haven't clearly defined or adequately guarded them. As Epictetus, a former slave who became one of the most revered Stoic philosophers, wisely stated, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This is paramount when dealing with toxic individuals. Their words, their actions, their negativity, these things only gain power if your internal gates are left unguarded. Mastering your inner citadel involves 2 key Stoic practices. First, awareness. Think of this as your watchtower. You must learn to recognize the subtle and overt signs of toxic behavior. Is it constant criticism disguised as helpful advice? Is it emotional manipulation through guilt trips or flattery? Is it the relentless negativity that drains the joy from every room? You might encounter the narcissist craving admiration, the gossip thriving on turmoil, or the energy vampire leaving you depleted. Develop a keen eye for these patterns, not to judge, but to identify potential threats to your peace. This isn't about labeling people, but about recognizing behaviors that are detrimental to your well-being. Second, fortifying your walls. Once you identify a threat, you need strong defenses. Boundaries are the clear lines you draw, defining what behavior you will and will not accept. Think of Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor. He ruled a vast empire by maintaining strong borders. You must do the same for your emotional territory. So how do you build these walls? To truly fortify your inner citadel, begin by honestly defining your non-negotiables. Pinpoint those behaviors that genuinely drain your energy or violate your core values. Is it enduring unsolicited advice on your life choices? Or perhaps becoming a perpetual sounding board for complaints that offer no solutions? Once these personal limits are clear, the next crucial step is to communicate them with clarity and composure. Employ I statements, reflecting the Stoic emphasis on personal accountability for one's perceptions. For instance, instead of accusingly saying, "You're always so negative," you could express, "I feel drained when our conversations focus heavily on negative topics." Specificity is also paramount. "I need some space" remains vague and open to misinterpretation. However, "I can't talk right now, but I'm free on Thursday" offers unambiguous clarity. In these communications, strive to be firm yet fair, remembering that assertiveness is distinct from aggression. You can state your needs respectfully and with conviction. Finally, understand that consistency is the bedrock of effective boundaries. A wavering wall is easily breached. So if someone crosses a line you've established, calmly remind them. This isn't an act of punishment, but one of essential self-preservation. Indeed, the Stoics cautioned against vices like envy and malice. In this light, setting and maintaining boundaries is not selfish. Rather, it is a profound act of self-respect and a necessary step toward cultivating enduring inner peace. Strategy number 2, become uninteresting. Now that your fortress has its initial defenses, Let's talk about a subtle yet incredibly potent Stoic approach, the art of indifference, sometimes called the gray rock method. Imagine an emotional barbarian, someone who thrives on drama, negativity, and eliciting a strong emotional response from you. They poke, they prod, they provoke, hoping for that spark of anger, frustration, or hurt that fuels their fire. The Stoic concept of apatheia is often misunderstood as apathy or coldness. In reality, it means a state of being undisturbed by passions, not an absence of feeling, but an absence of perturbation by unhelpful emotions. It's about emotional non-reactivity to external provocations. The gray rock method, inspired by this, is about making yourself emotionally uninteresting to the toxic individual. You become like a dull gray rock, unremarkable, unresponsive, offering no emotional handholds for their negativity to cling to. Seneca, another giant of Stoicism, advised, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." Toxic people often try to make you anxiously dependent on their approval or fearful of their disapproval. The gray rock method starves them of this. Mastering this art of indifference involves a conscious shift in your interaction style. When confronted with negativity, insults, or attempts to ensnare you in drama, your primary tool is the neutral response. Offer factual and brief statements such as, "That's an interesting perspective," "I see," or simply, "Okay." It's crucial to sidestep any engagement in emotional debates or the urge to justify yourself. For instance, if they insult your work, a calmly delivered, "I'll take that into consideration," can effectively deflate their attempt to provoke you. Your overarching goal is to avoid being sucked into their emotional vortex, especially when they deploy sarcasm, guilt trips, or outright hostility. By maintaining your composure and responding factually, or sometimes not at all, you disengage from their storm. Furthermore, if they pose prying questions, provide short, unelaborated answers, volunteering no extra information that could fuel further intrusion. Consistently focus on facts rather than feelings in your replies. Should they attempt to steer the conversation towards an emotional argument, gently guide it back to factual ground or, if necessary, simply disengage from the interaction. This isn't about being rude or shutting down completely. It's a strategic disengagement from their emotional games. Initially, some toxic individuals might escalate their behavior, testing your resolve. Stay consistent. Remember, you are not responsible for their negativity. By becoming an uninteresting target, their provocations lose power. They are seeking an emotional reaction, and when you don't provide it, they will often move on to find someone else who will. You make their toxic behavior ineffective towards you. Strategy number 3, the broken record. Sometimes indifference isn't enough, especially when a toxic individual is persistent in trying to manipulate you or wear down your boundaries. This is where our third strategy, the broken record technique, becomes invaluable. It's a method of assertive communication rooted in Stoic perseverance and reason. Imagine someone repeatedly trying to convince you to do something you don't want to do, using various arguments, emotional pleas, or guilt trips. It's exhausting. The broken record technique involves calmly and clearly repeating your core message or boundary, like a record stuck on a single, unshakable groove. Here's how it works. First, you should identify your core message. What is the one key thing you need to communicate? Perhaps it's, "I am not able to lend you money," or "I cannot take on that extra project," or even, "I am not going to discuss that topic with you." Then each time the person tries a new tactic to sway you, you calmly repeat your core message. You don't need to raise your voice or become defensive. For example, if they say, "But you're my friend, you have to help me out," you might reply, "I understand this is important to you, but I am not able to lend you money." If they persist, "Just this once, I promise I'll pay you back next week," you can respond, "I appreciate the promise, but I am not able to lend you money." You can briefly acknowledge their point or feeling before returning to your core statement. This shows you're listening, but not wavering. And importantly, you should resist diversions. Manipulators will try to pull you off topic, attack you personally, or make you feel guilty. Don't take the bait. Stick to your broken record. This technique is powerful because it disrupts the manipulator's script. They expect you to argue, defend, or concede. Your calm, unwavering repetition throws them off balance and highlights the futility of their attempts. It's not about being confrontational, it's about being steadfast. You are using reason and consistency, core Stoic virtues, to protect your boundaries and your peace. It demonstrates that your decision is firm and not open for debate. Strategy number 4, control your exposure. Our fourth method involves a very practical Stoic principle. Focus on what you can control. While you can't control a toxic person's behavior, you can often control your proximity and level of interaction with them. This is the art of strategic withdrawal. Think of your inner citadel again. Even with strong walls, constant bombardment is draining. Sometimes the wisest strategy is to reduce the enemy's access to your fortress. This isn't about running away in fear. It's a conscious, strategic decision to protect your well-being. The Stoics understood the importance of choosing one's environment and company wisely. Seneca wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." By extension, limiting association with those who degrade you is equally important. Strategic withdrawal can take several forms. First, consider physical distance. This is often the most straightforward. If possible, reduce the amount of time you spend in the physical presence of the toxic individual. Can you avoid certain social gatherings? Can you choose a different route in the office? Can you politely decline invitations? This isn't rudeness, it's self-preservation. A Stoic leader wouldn't send troops into an unnecessary battle. Don't subject yourself to unnecessary negativity. Second, cultivate emotional distance. Complete physical avoidance isn't always possible. Toxic individuals might be family members, colleagues, or people you must interact with. In these cases, emotional distance is key. Their behavior is not in your control, but your emotional investment is. Third, practice mental detachment. Observe their behavior objectively, as if you were a scientist studying a phenomenon, without getting emotionally entangled. You can understand their negativity without letting it color your own mood. Fourth, use cognitive reframing. Toxic people often try to trigger your emotions. Reframe their negativity. If a colleague is constantly complaining, instead of absorbing it, you might think, they seem to be having a difficult time, or this is their pattern of expressing stress. This creates a buffer. Fifth, try limiting interaction time. If you must interact, keep it brief and focused. Have an exit strategy. For example, I only have a few minutes before my next meeting. Limiting exposure isn't cowardice, it's wisdom. It's about conserving your emotional energy for people and pursuits that uplift and nourish you. By strategically withdrawing, you reduce the surface area that toxic individuals can attack, making it much harder for their negativity to disappear your peace. Strategy number 5, the observer's gaze. This next strategy is a profound mental shift that can liberate you from the emotional sting of toxic behavior. It's about cultivating the observer's gaze and truly internalizing the Stoic understanding that most of the time, a toxic person's behavior is a reflection of their inner world, not a judgment of your worth. Imagine a dark cloud spewing negativity. That cloud is the toxic person's internal state, their insecurities, fears, unresolved issues, and distorted perceptions. When they lash out, criticize, or manipulate, they are projecting this internal storm onto you. The Stoic practice of prosochi, or attentive mindfulness, encourages us to become impartial observers of our own thoughts and the world around us. When dealing with a toxic person, adopt this observer's stance. Step back from the immediate emotional impact and analyze the situation. Cultivating the observer's gaze involves several interconnected mental shifts. The first and most crucial is to depersonalize their actions. When confronted by someone's toxic behavior, make it a practice to remind yourself, this is about them, not me. Their criticisms may be unfounded, their anger misplaced, and their demands unreasonable. All are often symptoms of their internal state rather than an accurate reflection on you. A key aspect of this is learning to recognize projection. Toxic individuals frequently cast their own flaws and insecurities onto others. For instance, if someone persistently accuses you of selfishness, it's possible they are grappling with their own selfish tendencies or a deep-seated fear of their needs going unmet. Identifying this pattern of projection significantly diffuses the power of their accusations and allows you to see the behavior more objectively. Furthermore, strive to understand their likely unhappiness. It's a general truth that happy, secure, and emotionally healthy individuals don't typically feel compelled to tear others down. Toxic behavior often originates from a place of pain, fear, or inadequacy. While this understanding doesn't excuse their conduct, recognizing its probable root can facilitate emotional detachment. This allows you to extend compassion for their struggle from a safe distance, without becoming a casualty of its expression. When you truly internalize the insight that their toxicity is rarely a personal assault on your fundamental worth, but rather a manifestation of their own unresolved issues, their words and actions will lose much of their capacity to inflict pain. You are not the cause of their internal storm, and you are under no obligation to stand in their reign. Instead, you observe it, comprehend it for what it truly is, and diligently protect your own inner climate. Strategy number 6. Cultivate your own growth. Our sixth strategy addresses a common pitfall: the desire to fix toxic people, especially if we care about them. The Stoics, however, emphasize focusing our energy primarily on our own character and actions. This is the gardener's wisdom. Tend to your own garden. Don't exhaust yourself trying to weed someone else's against their will. Toxic individuals, like plants choked by weeds, require their own willpower and effort to change. You cannot force this transformation upon them. Trying to do so often leads to frustration, resentment, and the depletion of your own precious emotional resources. The Stoic approach of focusing on your own garden, rather than attempting to fix others, is profoundly powerful for several interconnected reasons. Primarily, it acknowledges that responsibility lies with them. Each individual is accountable for their own actions and personal growth. When you try to mend a toxic person, you inadvertently shoulder a burden that isn't yours, potentially enabling their unhealthy patterns by shielding them from the natural consequences of their behavior. This ties directly into the wisdom of energy conservation, as your energy is a finite and precious resource. Every moment spent trying to reform someone who isn't actively seeking change is a moment diverted from your own development, your own peace, and your own nurturing relationships. Imagine your inner tranquility as a flourishing garden. While you might offer a suggestion or a resource, like pointing them towards a helpful book or therapy, your fundamental duty is to protect your garden from the invasive weeds of others' unresolved issues. Moreover, the most significant influence you can often wield is to lead by example. By embodying Stoic principles such as calmness, reason, resilience, and virtue, you become a living testament to a more constructive way of being. This quiet authenticity can sometimes inspire others far more effectively than any direct attempt to fix them. Finally, an essential part of this wisdom is knowing when to disengage. If your well-intentioned attempts to offer support are met with persistent resistance or further toxicity, Stoicism wisely advises prioritizing the protection of your own well-being. This might necessitate creating more distance, as we discussed in the strategy of strategic withdrawal. This isn't about being callous or uncaring. You can offer compassion and point towards resources if you feel compelled and it's safe to do so. But your primary focus must be on cultivating your own virtues, your own tranquility, and your own well-being. By tending to your own garden, you ensure it thrives, regardless of the state of others' plots. This makes their attempts to disappear your joy far less effective. Strategy number 7, the liberating release. Our final approach, and perhaps the most profound for truly making toxic people disappear from your emotional landscape, is the liberating release. This practice involves forgiveness and detachment, undertaken not for their sake, but entirely for yours. The Stoics consistently taught the importance of accepting what lies beyond our control, and the past actions of others unequivocally fall into this category. Harboring resentment is akin to drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. In reality, it only harms you. Forgiveness, in the Stoic sense, is not about condoning bad behavior or forgetting what transpired, nor is it necessarily about reconciliation. Rather, it is about releasing the emotional charge associated with the person or the event. It's about decisively cutting the cord that binds you to that pervasive negativity. Your true power resides in your own thoughts and reactions. Holding on to anger grants the toxic person continued dominion over your emotional state, even if they are no longer physically present, whereas forgiveness reclaims that power. This process involves acceptance, not condoning. Acknowledge what happened, accept that it was painful or unjust, and accept that you cannot change it. Then make a conscious decision to let go of the corrosive emotions attached to it. As Marcus Aurelius wisely wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Forgiveness is a potent exercise of this mental strength. Furthermore, this act of release allows you to break the cycle of negativity. Resentment keeps you trapped, while forgiveness frees up your emotional energy for positive pursuits. Crucially, understand that forgiveness is primarily a gift to yourself. It is the key that unlocks your own emotional prison. To cultivate this liberating release, begin by acknowledging your feelings. Don't suppress anger, hurt, or resentment. Allow yourself to feel and understand them before consciously deciding to release them. Practice self-compassion, treating yourself with the same kindness you would offer a friend in a similar situation, recognizing that you were impacted by their toxicity and therefore deserve gentleness in your healing process. Finally, focus on the present and future. By letting go of past grievances, you free yourself to live more fully in the moment and build a more positive future, unencumbered by old wounds. So there you have it, 7 powerful Stoic strategies to make toxic people and their influence disappear from your life. These aren't magic spells, but practical applications of ancient wisdom. They require practice, patience, and courage. But by integrating these Stoic principles into your life, you can systematically dismantle the power toxic individuals have over you, protect your precious inner peace, and cultivate a life of genuine emotional freedom and resilience. You reclaim your narrative. To close our discussion today, I want to share an ancient parable that beautifully encapsulates the essence of choosing our focus and protecting our inner state, much like the Stoics advised. There once was an old Zen master who lived in a small temple high in the mountains. Many seekers would travel far to ask for his wisdom. One day, a young, agitated man arrived. "Master," he exclaimed, "I am plagued by a terrible neighbor. He is loud, rude, and constantly finds ways to annoy me. He throws his refuse near my gate, his animals wander into my garden, and his music plays at all hours. I have tried to reason with him, I have argued with him, I have even tried ignoring him, but his provocations only seem to grow. My peace is shattered. What can I do?" The old master listened patiently, then smiled gently. He picked up 2 empty sacks and said, "For every time your neighbor has angered you or caused you distress this past month, pick up a potato and place it in this first sack." The young man, grumbling, began to fill the sack. It quickly became heavy. "Now," the master said, "you must carry this sack with you wherever you go for 1 month. Do not put it down." A few days later, the young man returned, looking even more weary. The sack of potatoes had begun to rot and smell. It was heavy and cumbersome. "Master," he pleaded, "this is unbearable. The potatoes are heavy, they stink, and they attract flies. I cannot carry this burden any longer." The master nodded. "This," he said, pointing to the rotting sack, "is what you carry in your heart when you hold on to anger and resentment towards your neighbor. The burden is yours, not his. He continues his life, perhaps unaware or uncaring of your suffering, while you are weighed down by the negativity you have chosen to carry." He then gestured to the second empty sack. "The choice, my son, is always yours. You can choose to fill your sack with the offenses of others, letting them weigh you down and poison your journey. Or," he said, his eyes twinkling, "you can choose to leave the potatoes by the roadside and walk on, light and free, focusing on the beauty of the path ahead, not the refuse left by others." Like the young man in the parable, we often carry the potatoes of others' toxicity, their slights, their negativity, their drama. Stoicism teaches us that we have the power to put down that sack. By mastering our inner citadel, choosing our responses, and focusing on our own virtue and peace, we can walk our path unburdened, allowing the negativity of others to simply disappear from our journey.